In this tutorial, let me introduce you to chemical reactions. We know that there are various types of chemical changes taking place in our surroundings. Any chemical change in matter which involves transformation into one or more substances with entirely different properties is called a chemical reaction. But do you know what happens in a chemical reaction? Let me explain. A chemical reaction involves breaking of chemical bonds between the atoms or groups of atoms of reacting substances and rearrangement of atoms making new bonds. This forms new substances with absorption or release of energy in the form of heat and light. So what are these chemical bonds? A chemical bond is the attractive force that holds the atoms of a molecule together in a compound. Chemical reactions are represented by chemical equations. The substances taking part in a reaction are called reactants, and the new substances formed at the end of the reaction are called products. So, the reactants are on the left hand side, whereas products formed are on the right hand side, which are connected by a one-headed or two-headed arrow. In a chemical reaction, only the atoms present in the reactants can end up in the products. No new atoms are created and no atoms are destroyed. Reactants contact each other, bonds between atoms in the reactants are broken, and atoms rearrange and form new bonds to make the products. Let us take the example of the reaction in which hydrogen peroxide is broken down into water and oxygen. Here, hydrogen peroxide is the reactant and it is broken down into products which are water and oxygen. The atoms that started out in hydrogen peroxide molecules are rearranged to form water and oxygen molecules. In order to assure the law of conservation of mass, a chemical equation must be balanced. That is, the number of atoms on both the reactants and product sides must be equal. This is the balancing of chemical equation. In a chemical reaction, a chemical change must occur which is generally observed with changes like formation of precipitates, heat production, color change, evolution of gases, change of state, etc. The rate of reaction depends on and is affected by factors like pressure, temperature, concentration of reactants, etc. Stay tuned as we learn more about the types of chemical reactions in our next tutorial.